I was flown out to San Francisco by EAPR to play 6 hours of Dragon Age, the Veilguard, and fell in love with the series all over again. Dragon Age has been near and dear to my heart over the years. I absolutely adored Origins, enjoyed 2, and loved Inquisition. How exactly does Dragon Age the Veilguard play? That is the question that was on everyone's mind well before we got leapfrogged by a week by a certain other outlet's preview. From the tactical combat of Origins to the freer flowing nature of 2, and then the full-on third-person over-the-shoulder fighting in Inquisition, this series does revel in change. The Veilguard has gone full-on third-person action game, but fret not. It has kept that classic BioWare RPG soul, which was glorious to behold. I promise also this preview will be as spoiler-light as possible, so let's get into it as we talk about Dragon Age the Veilguard. If you've seen the gameplay demo earlier in the year, then you know that the old Solus is up to something nutso, and his pal Varric has enlisted you, the Rook, to help stop him. It's a bombastic opening sequence that feels, in the developer's words, like the beginning of a James Bond film, and that you're experiencing the end of a story that's going to catapult you into this game's narrative. Before you get into any of this, though, you'll be greeted with one of the deeper character creation kits I've ever seen. Dragon Age the Veilguard is a gorgeous game, and this character creation toolset was the first thing that wowed me. They had us playing on powerful PC rigs that captured all of this footage in glorious, sadly, only 1080p resolution via OBS. The character models, and especially the hair, both head and facial, are awesome. I'm not the biggest fan of spending a ton of time to craft a look, and we only had 6 hours, so I went through some of the presets and built out both a warrior and a mage character based on them. As I started my game up, I took a look over, and dozens of other people who were there to play the game were still deep into sculpting every contour, going through the dozens of hairstyles, and fine-tuning their characters for upwards of an hour. And don't worry, I am going to keep story spoilers to a minimum, as out of this as possible, but I will list things like the character classes and race types at least. You have humans, Kunari, elves, and dwarves, and they can be one of 3 classes, which are warriors, rogues, and mages. I know the classes don't sound like much at first, but thankfully the skill trees for each class are freaking huge. Those subclass choices make playing the 3 feel more like having upward of 9 distinct playstyles that allow for further customization based on your playstyle and gear choice. Warriors can go sword and board, or use some big old 2-hand bonkers. Mages get a mix of close and long-range attack that can be single-target or multi-target, and rogues end up being the typical, you either got your dual-wield or your ranged bow focus, and the number of skills you can assign for each is 3 at a time. Changing up skills can be done at damn near any time you're out of combat, and it felt great to experiment with each of them in the short time that we had. The character creator has a few more surprises, but I'm going to leave those for you to find. When the game was first revealed, it was titled Dreadwolf. I spoke with a couple members of the game's development team and asked why they changed it to The Veilguard. They told me as the game was going through development, it shifted away from being more Solus-focused, the Dreadwolf himself, instead becoming about you and your companions. You are the Veilguard, and this is the story of your group coming together to fight for something truly epic. Also, taking place in northern Thedas, it's an area where magic is not only tolerated, but a basic part of the day-to-day life in a way we haven't seen before in the series. This allowed for the team to not have to make any of your previous game choices canon or not. They told me you can play through the entirety of the Veilguard feeling like you are in your world from Origins through Inquisition, and nothing that happens should make it feel like that's taken away. The first few members of your Veilguard team are Varric and Harding, joined by Nev, a powerful mage who has an incredible style both on and off the battlefield. Early choices led to slightly different outcomes as I played through the opening mission multiple times, making sure to choose B this time instead of A. I hope none of my fellow previewers spoil the story, as what I saw had me hooked. The writing was real good and just witty enough with the repartee between team members that they felt familiar with each other, but it didn't turn into some Marvel quip factory. And the game feels polished. That really comes through in the vision of what you and your team are meant to be. You are a group of talented and flawed individuals who join forces for, actually good reasons. The interactions and my choices never felt forced in anything that I played through. We were allowed to play some of the later areas, though we can't show or talk about them, not that I want to. There were a few hours after the opening, and without saying too much, I'll just say I felt satisfied about the RPG side of the title. The BioWare devs talked to me about playing to the studio's strengths, taking all the positives they've learned over the years and focusing on those instead of focusing entirely on trying to push into areas they are less familiar with. It's not an open world game either. You choose a mission, you go to that place, and then you do it in a rather linear fashion, at least for the most part. As you will, early on, end up in an area known as the Lighthouse. It serves as your base hub and itself is full of secrets and inaccessible areas. How you access said new areas is smart, building up the game's lore and story in a natural way. Here, you can visit your companions and grow relationships with them. The game features romance, and not only for you, but between them as well. It feels like a natural evolution of the I'm going to flirt with you 100 times and then we bang systems of old. So much of the game feels that way. Masters of a craft finally getting the time and the ability to just go in a direction in which they truly excel. For any BioWare veteran, you should be real familiar with the choice wheel during dialogue sections. The tried and true system is back, and you'll often see a pop-up on the left when an impactful choice has been made, letting you know things like X character will remember you chose the violent path, etc. I enjoyed my respites into the lighthouse as they jumped us between save files, and I was able to see how it grows, both due to new party members and various unlock items that you can find during missions. The Veilguard seems real big content-wise, if anything of the roughly 6 hours we got to play is an indication. Thankfully, every moment I spent fighting in it was a blast. While the game is an RPG, they have not skimped on the combat at all. It feels like a culmination of everything BioWare has learned in the last decade. While you're not aiming and shooting guns like Mass Effect Andromeda or Anthem, you can still feel the DNA of those excellent shooters in the Veilguard. Playing as a warrior to start, I had X as my light attack, Y for heavy swings. The right bumper was a parry on tap and a block on hold, with generous timing for the parries. As I unlock some early abilities, I get a shield toss on the right trigger as my ranged ability, and holding the left trigger let me quickly access my eventual 3 class abilities. You get a ton to choose from for those abilities as you unlock the various nodes in the gigantic skill tree. They operate on a mix of rage and cooldowns for the warrior. The meter builds up as you hit things, Diablo Barb style, and moves can either inflict a debuff or explode a debuff. Which debuff they set and which they explode, those are your combos straight out of Anthem. Making sure your 3 characters, you as Rook and up to 2 companions, play well off of each other was key to getting through the tougher fights. You will find flags planted in the ground during missions that allow you to swap up your companions as well, making it easy to counter certain bosses and enemy types if you start having major issues with them. The warriors, rogues, and mages all play differently enough from each other that I'm fine with only having the 3 classes. Their unlock choices afford so much customization in how you want to play that I never felt bored, even if the fights do find you repeating moves and combos for sometimes minutes on end. Another key factor for keeping things feeling good is just how incredible this game looks and sounds. Utilizing the latest in Frostbite engine goodness, Dragon Age: The Veilguard is a stunning title. We all played on super powerful PC rigs. There's no word yet given on what to expect on your Xbox or PlayStation consoles, but knowing the team and the engine on which they work, I'd expect it to probably look pretty damned good on any of the current gen machines. You'll have your various resolution, setting, and frame rate targets that are different depending on the cost of said console, of course, but I know I talked about it earlier, and I just have to say again, the hair in this game looks amazing. And it's not only the way that it looks, it behaves nearly flawlessly. As I gave my characters long hair of various shapes and sizes, and it either flowed around my armor or bounced up and down in battles as I jumped, utilizing the A button, or dodged, utilizing the B button, and it made me feel cool as hell. Whether I was a warrior with a big-ass bonker, a rogue dancing around with twin blades, or an ice mage stomping the ground and causing huge explosions every animation, it all looked top tier. BioWare utilizes that Sony spotlight effect as well, with your character Rook always being perfectly lit by some invisible light source in the environment. You constantly pop even in the darkest of caves, and it gives that sense of sheen and polish that Sony's fans especially have come to expect in their titles. Matching the graphical fidelity was the writing, the voice acting, and especially the musical score. The Veilguard feels like people were in a room recording lines to each other. They've done that work to give their conversations a natural flow. Though, of course, you can go full maniac and skip the dialogue if you so choose. The writing, again, hit that level of familiarity with the characters, but it never devolved into a hokey quip fest. It's a really tough line to tread, and from what I saw, they've done it well. It also doesn't hurt that an incredible score was going the entire time during combat in the more energetic cutscenes. Wrapping this preview up, the only questions I really have left after these hours of playing Dragon Age: The Veilguard are about the story and how it lands, and just how much content is there. Everything I saw, every fight I took part in, and every decision I made felt impactful, and most importantly, it was really fun. We'll have a full review of the game closer to its October 31st launch, so keep an eye on this YouTube channel until then. For now, if you're a fan of Dragon Age or a newcomer, I think you're going to be in for something special.